everyone, this is Push the Lane. I'm Nick Allen, and I'm joined by a guy who is very, very jealous of how good I look, James Railman.
Nick, we've been over this before. Just because I have pictures of you all over my closet and office doesn't mean that I'm trying to emulate your look.
It's very romantic.
It's just, you know, practice. It's good practice. But that brings us into the new topic, which is the new Push the Lane. We're changing up some of our, strategies for this show, which is essentially we have a Monday and a Wednesday show now. Monday every week is going to be the LCS weekend recap.
Yeah.
And we're going to go over all of our favorite plays, our favorite strategies, players from the matches. This Wednesday in this show is actually going to be our picks, and we go over what exciting games you really need to watch over the weekend, what we're looking forward to and whatnot. That being said, we're actually starting off not talking about the LCS, just going over some competitive features that we might want Riot to implement. And kind of the reason we started talking about this, it's always been very common for people to discuss replays and whatnot. But I actually, after seeing what they did with the PBE and adding the /equalize feature with golden experience, I actually think it'd be really cool if teams started practicing on the PBE, or even better, if Riot offers some custom options in the custom games. Because in a lot of other sports, you get to see teams practicing for individual situations. NFL, there was a great Sports Illustrated article recently that was describing how the Colts had been practicing in a situation where they're at the 20-yard line, 30 seconds left in the game, 2 timeouts remaining. Sorry about going into NFL here, but that's the situation. They practice it. It happened in the next week, and they were able to win the game. They knew exactly what plays to call, how to run it. I'd like to see teams be able to do that with Baron fights, with Dragon fights, just practice the same fight over and over again rather than having to play a 20-minute game to get into it. And that's actually what this /equalize feature could help with. But if there were custom game options, that would be huge.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is the next evolution in terms of how teams are going to be able to practice. If you look at a game, how many team fights do teams get to do in a regular game? 2, 3, 4, maybe, and then the game is completely over.
Sometimes only one that actually matters.
Yeah, and that's the end of the game, right? So being able to lock down and really just focus on team fights in particular right outside of Baron, work on positioning, work on targets, it's really going to make the team fights better to watch, more exciting, but overall just more exciting games. Teams are going to be better competition, and it's a win-win for everybody. I hope we can see it integrated into the regular servers. I don't see a lot of pros on the PBE using it though.
Yeah, the only thing that would be frustrating for me is if we keep doing that and you're like sitting down bot farming constantly. I'm like, Nick, we've been over this. We're doing the same team fight over and over again. But that brings us into the LCS, guys. This LCS NA Thursday, the matches are going to be really exciting. We're looking forward to a lot of them. Last week was just mind-blowing, a lot of these games. And starting off the bat, I remembered at the time, Curse, one of my favorite matches, Curse versus GGU. At the end of the game, there was an awesome team fight, and that's actually why I think that Curse is going to be able to take down Complexity, because they are the best team in North America, not just because they have great team fighting potential and great laning phases, but they know how to manipulate the game late game. And in this situation, GGU was actually winning a lot of these team fights, and Voyboy was poking him down, but then even more so, he was split pushing and backdooring GGU's base. And then a perfect Sona ult from Elements. They hold off for Voyboy to teleport back in. They win the fight, win the game when they were down. So being able to win in a situation that seemed like a loss, that's really impressive to me.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game. I think that is truly the game to watch for this week.
Yes.
We haven't seen Complexity and what they can do, but they looked really strong at the LCS qualifiers. Let's be honest. Lauda is a beast, and he's quite handsome. I don't mind telling you.
Yeah, but I've heard tell that he, I have heard fabled stories of his handsomeness.
Along with his handsomeness, he's also very, very aggressive, and I don't know how Curse is going to be able to handle that. They're going to come out of nowhere. We're going to see Lauda just play aggressive champions, go headstrong and see what he can do. And I think that is going to take Curse by surprise and lead to their first loss, courtesy of the handsome Lauda.
Let's be honest here. That's the only reason that's the match to watch is because you want to just watch Lauda.
Yeah, I do want to. Okay, I love him.
All right, that's fine.
That's fine.
Fair enough. Yeah. Vulcan versus TSM, a rematch. What I don't understand what Riot's doing with this, honestly. I'm loving the series, but it's a league. These guys, there's all season for them to play each other. Why are they playing each other back-to-back weeks? There's 4 or 5 games where they're playing each other here. That being said, I actually see TSM looking really strong in this game, even more so after watching last week. And this Volk versus Dignitas clip in particular, it shows some of the issues with Vulcan in team fights, which is Psycho Sid missing the taunt there with Shen just completely whiffing. And then Dignitas, they were able to just rush in on the AD carry. And Zuna, as an AD carry, he likes playing Twitch, he likes playing Kog'Maw. Those are his 1 and 2s. And that actually, those AD carries both have vulnerability issues against dive comps, which is exactly what TSM runs. So that being the case, I think that TSM is going to take that match again.
Yeah, and just to note the other matches that are going to be happening, we have Dignitas versus Marn. Of course, Marn is just going to defeat themselves, and Dignitas is going to come through. But Dignitas versus TSM, I mean, it's really a matter of who has fallen the farthest. I feel like these are two teams that were extremely strong, that have fallen really far, and I think TSM is the better of the two teams. Dignitas has really fallen a long, long way. But let's go into NA Friday.
Well, we can actually recap of our picks real quick.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
So we can just have that on record. Nick,
okay.
I don't want you missing out on this, so when I can rub it in next week on all of your wrong picks, because Vulcan over TSM,
that's
come
right.
on.
I think they can do it. I think they learn from their mistakes.
All right, well, we'll see. But
so those are our picks.
Those are our picks.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on like what the community's saying. We want to hear your picks, so feel free to leave those comments. Now going into it, you were saying NA Friday.
Yeah, NA Friday's got some cool stuff too. I think Dignitas versus GGU is the game to watch, mainly because GGU was actually quite impressive last week. They didn't win any games, but they took CLG and Curse to the limit. They showed how aggressive they could be. They could have been amazing. They could have been something. They had some really awesome dragon fights, and they won pretty convincingly.
This is their comeback week.
Yeah, hopefully this is their comeback week, and they can show what they're made of. Zion Spartan has a plethora of champions he can play, so let's see how that works for them going into this match. I think they'll be able to take out Dignitas, and I also think they'll be able to take out Vulcan.
Well, I think Dignitas, they struggled last week where they would lose one big team fight. Their kiting and whatnot was very strong, but the second there was an engage, you saw everything unraveled. They would start running away, just very disorganized. And GGU actually have phenomenal team fighting capabilities. They have one of some of the strongest team fights in the North American scene. As far as initiation, they have very strong initiation, and I think that coupled with a strong early jungle should be able to seal that for them. A couple of the games are going to be really exciting. We do have that as our game to watch, as well as TSM, Marn. Once again, we both have Marn kind of going down there. But let's take a look at some of our picks there.
Yeah,
and we can see that Curse once again dominant in the NA scene.
Yeah.
GGU, we have them beating Vulcan as well. So GGU coming back after last week with 2-0 this weekend.
Yeah. So we both agreed on all these matches. Okay. So nothing too much to talk about. We agree.
All right,
it's rare, but let's go ahead and move on. EU Saturday.
Yes.
We saw some really awesome matches last week. Again, some upsets. For this week, I think SK versus EG is going to be the match to watch. Again, it's a rematch from last week. It
was a great match last week.
I mean, maybe I'm ready to see it again.
If you're asking for a rematch, I guess that's fine. Instead of giving us best of threes, they're going to have the teams play 3
Maybe
weeks
that's really what it's about. Yeah, but I mean, SK, they have some interesting comps. I really like Kassadin on Ocelot. I think that really goes with his style. Kevin was dominant on Olaf in that top lane. I think he ended the game like 8-2, 8-3, something ridiculous. So as long as they get the champions they want, they can play their game. I think they could definitely beat Evil Geniuses.
Well, Evil Geniuses, they're a very impressive team. They were last week. They are still. I still think that they're going to be able to win this matchup. We'll have to see. I think SK did a number of really nice things, but one of the strengths of EG's team is when they play more of that defensive kiting style. And I think they were going a little bit too aggro last week.
Yeah, against SK, they were pushing the mid lane.
A bunch of assassins.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of see what changes they make there. We also have a couple of other cool games. SK versus Wolves is another rematch.
Yeah.
But honestly, after last weekend, neither of us are very impressed with Wolves.
Wolves is a little lackluster right now.
I think they're really going to struggle. And SK, they're a dominant team. So even though I have Evil Geniuses, I agree that SK is a team to watch in the EU LCS. They're looking very strong.
They are.
So that
they have a lot of heart.
Bring us to our picks.
They
got the heart.
They got the heart. But yeah, those are picks coming up for this week. Where we differ, I think let's see.
We actually don't differ on the EU side. At least for
EG versus SK.
EG, SK, yeah. And that's just, I don't know, we'll have to see. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think the EG, if they play that defensive kiting style, they're going to be okay. Also, we've seen a lot of Kassadin from Ocelot, and it's always been very impressive. Like, it's not the champ he's known for, but he tends to actually do very well in it. So, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah.
Lastly, EU Saturday, or Sunday. So EU Sunday, actually, we have a little bit more intrigue, I think. A couple of these picks could go either way. Evil Geniuses versus Giants, though, that is our match to watch, 100%. Definitely. And that's one that we haven't seen before. But when you look at this match, Giants, who did they lose to? Fnatic, They lost to a poke team. XPK was wearing them down with Nidalee. Incredibly impressive play, but it's a team that can form a nice arc and sit back. EG, on the other hand, you look at what they can do, and this fight against Gambit is just perfect. You see the coordination. They have a very defensive sit-back style, and then focus very effectively with those high CC tanky champions. The very beginning of that fight I thought was awesome because Froggen actually walled off Rise, Alex H, and he had to flash over the wall. But so they have a really impressive fight there. Why did Gambit lose? They lost because they were going right into Jim Bones' Kennen and Zyra, and they have that nasty AoE team down in the bot lane, and great front line. So Giants, they actually run a very short-range team as well. GG, their short-range team with Rise, with Olaf, with Volibear, those kind of picks, they have to walk right into that. EG, on the other hand, Evil Geniuses, they're not going to have that issue. They showed against Gambit what they can do against that kind of a short-range team, and I think they're going to do the exact same thing against Giants.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. It really comes down to, can EG outlast that that AoE comp that Giants likes to bring? That Kennen, like you said, Kennen Zyra in the bot lane is a little bit weird, a little bit unconventional. Yeah. We have seen Kennen in the past, but it's hard to handle, and we saw Genja and Gambit, he couldn't handle it very well. He actually lost the lane pretty bad. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do. Can EG make it to the late game? Can they outlast this AoE comp? And Giants, they're pretty aggressive, and they run some really tanky champions like Rise as well. Extra on Rise was pretty awesome last week too against Gambit. So we'll have to see how they do. Other matches for this week, GG versus Wolves again. Wolves, we're not very impressed with them. It's actually
Gambit had a really rough week.
Gambit did,
2, but we still they are one of the top teams in the world.
And when the
Wolves,
pressure's on, when the pressure's on Gambit Gaming, that's when they shine. I think the pressure's starting to build up on them as they they go into week 2, 1 and 2.
That being said, Wolves does like running Caitlyn Nunu some, and if they get that against Gambit Gaming's short range kind of team, maybe they can kite effectively make something happen there. But I really wouldn't be expecting a whole lot. Yeah,
and then SK versus Dragonborns, we haven't seen too much out of them, but SK is a really strong team right now. They have a lot of passion. They're practicing well, and it shows. And then lastly, Giants versus Wolves. Got to take Giants on this. Wolves just show us something cool. Show us what you're made of.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. But Dragonborns, I think, is going to be interesting because they have a lot of potential on that team. They definitely looked really impressive at the LCS qualifier. This weekend, I don't know. It's their first weekend. SK's already ready to show. They've shown that they're a dominant team. And Dragonborns doesn't have very favorable matchups. So I think they could struggle out of the gate. But maybe we'll see a lot of cool stuff from them down the line.
All right, let's check out our picks just to wrap up this last section here. Where were we differing? EG and Giants. We'll have to see how that match boils
You really
down.
don't like EG.
What? I don't know. I don't
didn't like them last week.
I know, and I don't like
2-1. You don't like them this week.
And they definitely proved themselves last week. So I just don't learn. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I noticed with the Vulcan TSM pick earlier.
Yeah. But that's it for this week, guys. We'll have to see how we do on our Monday show when we recap this past weekend. But until then, let us know who you think is going to win in the comments below, and add us on Twitter. I'm at Nick Allen IGN.
At Baroncast, let us know who's right, who's wrong, who your picks are. Come on, seriously. There's no question here. But thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to tune in Monday for the recap. We will be going over all of the LCS matches and our favorite plays from the weekend. And then every Wednesday, once again, make your picks with us. Thanks, guys.